Welcome to another video in my College Football 2026 season preview series, and today we're going to be talking about the Indiana Hoosiers, who are my number 6 team on the list. If you missed the last few, be sure to go watch those after this video so that way you can be fully caught up, and subscribe so you don't miss a video in this series. Also, hit the like button if you enjoy the video. A little football will appear when you do it, and it really helps out the channel. If you're new around here, we typically go through the teams like this. We'll start off with their offseason changes. This can include head coaching changes, coordinator changes, big transfer portal additions, and departures. If it's a depth piece, third string offensive lineman, then probably not going to talk about them in the video unless I see them as a particular sleeper. Then we'll get into the players on the roster, the starting lineups, and we'll place these units into tiers. Specific draft eligible players will get numerical grades because I've watched enough tape on them, but the tier system kind of helps with perspective for players where the grade maybe isn't as strong. Then we'll get into the scheme because obviously this channel is called My Film Review, so we have to highlight the scheme. We'll talk about things that went right or wrong last year and what needs to change and what they do on offense and defense. After that, we'll go with a schedule prediction where I will break down every single game on their schedule and give my reasoning as to why I think they'll win or lose. For Indiana's coaching changes, there aren't many, and that's insane considering what they accomplished last season. Imagine if I told you 10 years ago that Indiana would not only be the undefeated 16-0 national champions, but they would beat Alabama, Oregon, Miami, and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship on the way to do it. Not only that, they would have a Heisman winning quarterback and one of the best teams statistically in the nation. They were unstoppable last year, and it's ridiculous that they are this good and keep everyone on their staff. Usually when you have teams like this, you'll see a coordinator get poached, or you'll see the strength and conditioning coach who had a huge effect, he'll leave the team. But Indiana kept everyone together. There's nothing to report on here. For the teams that don't have a lot of coaching changes, I'll usually do a little season recap, so we'll talk about Indiana's 2025 season briefly, and it was headlined by Fernando Mendoza, the #1 overall pick in the draft, who I thought was Indiana's first #1 overall pick, but it was actually their second, and I can't remember the name of the guy who got drafted, but I think it was in like the 1930s, so for modern sake, we'll go ahead and say that Fernando Mendoza is their first #1 overall pick. It was a fun season for Indiana. Obviously, they had those games where they won 50-0 and you could turn it off at halftime, but there were some really good games in there too, like that one against Oregon on the road, the one against Penn State on the road with Omar Cooper Jr.'s insane touchdown catch to end it. The Big Ten championship was a sweat, and in my opinion, that's when the world kind of woke up to who Indiana was. The Oregon win was obviously good, but I feel like there was still some doubt in this team until they went out and beat Ohio State, and it was like, oh, they're for real. Then they went into the college football playoff, and they were the only team with a bye to win, absolutely destroying Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Then they would go on to destroy Oregon in the Peach Bowl. And then the game against Miami was probably the best Indiana game of the year, in my opinion. That game could have went either way. Miami had a chance to win it. I don't know why people were discounting Miami, but all respect to Indiana. What they put together last season with Brian Haynes, Mike Shanahan, and Curt Cignetti at the helm, it was amazing, and they're going to be able to run it back just the same in 2026. Now, to get into the roster changes, we'll start with their NFL departures. They had 8 players drafted in the 2026 NFL draft, which did set a school record. Obviously, the headliner was Fernando Mendoza, who there is plenty of chatter about online. You don't need me to sit here and tell you that Fernando Mendoza is great, but he was elite. He executed their system to near perfection, and part of that was just because of how good of a processor he was. He could understand what he was seeing pre-snap and able to adjust to the post-snap changes faster than any college quarterback could last season. He has amazing arm strength. He has the NFL frame. He has everything that you're looking for in an NFL quarterback. Do I think he was the best #1 overall pick of the past 5 or 6 years? No, probably not. Do I think he's deserving of that given the class? And do I think that he'll be a great NFL player? Yes, I do. Replacing him is not going to be easy, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes. They also had Omar Cooper Jr. selected in the first round by the New York Jets. Bless his heart. And then D'Angelo Pons in the second round. I think that D'Angelo Pons will probably be the hardest guy to replace outside of Mendoza. I mean, he was phenomenal. If you love college football, go put on some D'Angelo Pons highlights. He plays the game with just an undefeated mentality. For only being 5'9", you would never know that if he wasn't matched up against like a 6'5" receiver, or if you didn't look at the roster online. They would also have Kalen Black, Elijah Surratt, Riley Nowakowski, Pat Coogan, Aiden Fisher all get drafted too. The key undrafted free agents were Mikal Kamara, who you'll see me reference a lot in this video just because of what he did for this team last year, Roman Hemby, and Lewis Moore. And I was kind of surprised Lewis Moore went undrafted. I know he was a really old rookie, but I thought he had some pretty good tape. Now, to talk about their transfer losses, they don't have many. As you'd expect, the undefeated national champions had a pretty easy case to stay. You'll get paid and you're probably going to win a lot of football games next year. That's pretty easy to keep him around. The only one I'll call out here is defensive tackle Hosea Wheeler. Not an elite player, but definitely a good one who'll be taking his talents to Baylor. He was a rotational guy last year, and I'd imagine he got told it would be more of the same if he stayed, so he's going to go down to Waco and fight for the chance to start. Now we get to the transfer additions, and this list is long, so I'll pick a few highlights. This team loves the portal, and there was an interesting article last season about the Final Four teams and their transfer versus high school recruits percentage on the team, and Indiana was second behind Ole Miss, with 65% of starters coming from the transfer portal. Elijah Surratt was technically the only JMU starter on offense, although I'd count Kalen Black in there, but the defense had Mikael Kamara, Tyreek Tucker, Aiden Fisher, and D'Angelo Pons all following Kurt Cignetti from JMU when he had his run there. And that's an important group of guys, and that doesn't even count their other portal additions like Pat Coogan and Riley Nowakowski, and many more. All that to say, they reload in the portal, so let's see what they did this year. Starting off this portal class, we have their new signal caller in Josh Hoover, and I have some very strong opinions about Josh Hoover, but we'll save him for the quarterback section when I get into the roster, because if I talk about him now, we're just going to skip an entire position group, so we'll hold off. We can talk about who he'll be throwing to, though, and that is Nick Marsh from Michigan State. Marsh will probably be taking over the Elijah Surratt role. He's got that big 6'3", 200-pound frame that will allow him to take hits over the middle with ease. He can catch the ball from any point in the air with his frame. Pinballs off of tackles. He's kind of like a mix of Surratt and Omar Cooper, to be honest. Now, is he as good as them? I don't know, but he very well could be. I mean, this is a serious addition at receiver when you factor in who he's going to be playing next to. I think he's a pretty crisp route runner for his size, too. If you watch here on this quick out, it's not much, but there's zero rounding of his routes here. He's very decisive with his cuts, and then he gets upfield right away. Do I think he's the most agile guy on the planet? Maybe not, but he's good enough at his size, and he doesn't need to be. This is the big slot in the offense, if you will. I think he can play all over the field, though. I'd imagine they line him up everywhere and just see what he can do, and that's why he's such a valuable add for this team. He is a dominant player. He'll run through you, not around you, but he still has enough body control and finesse to where I don't consider him just like this giant jump ball guy. I think he's a major addition for Indiana and replaces one of their biggest losses with Surratt. Next up is Wisconsin transfer Joe Bruner, who is a highly desired guard prospect in the portal. I remember really hoping that Texas would land him, but the writing was on the wall for him to end up in Indiana the whole time, considering he was following his former position coach, Bob Bostad. Bruner is 6'5", 320 pounds, and he has an awesome beard. I mean, that's a grown-ass man right there. Look at that. He is really good at clearing guys out in the run game. You can see here he gets some good drive. I think in terms of power, he's pretty top tier. I think he did struggle a little more against finesse defenders, but there's a lot of good reps of him like destroying linebackers, so I don't think it's a huge problem. He has a ton of strength off the ball. I mean, he's lethal on double teams. I think he's a great scheme fit for the Hoosiers with their high gap scheme run rate, but he's athletic enough to carry out the zone switch-ups. In pass pro, I don't know if he's as good. I think he's fine. Like I said, those finesse type rushers can give him struggles, and I don't think he always picks up on blitzes and stunts as well as you'd like to, but you have to factor in that this coaching staff in Indiana knows how to coach offensive line. We'll talk about it later. It's some of the best offensive line tape I've ever watched from college, to be honest with you. So there's one place to go if you want to be a lineman. It might be Indiana right now. The other receiver they snagged in the portal was Chaz Preston from Tulane. He had a pretty solid statistical season last year. I'd imagine that he and Nick Marsh will kind of rotate in and out of the slot depending on what the formation calls for. I think both of them are very versatile players. He has great overall coordination. He has good body control. He can reel in passes outside his catch radius. It's funny, like despite being a G6 guy, one of his best games of the year came against Ole Miss in the playoffs, so he's no slouch. He's also built a little bigger, over 200 pounds. He can muscle away from people. I think he's got good enough speed and overall yak ability to be a threat there. If Nick Marsh is like a souped up Elijah Surratt, I might say that Preston is like a nerfed Omar Cooper Jr. And maybe that's a bad comp, but those were just kind of my first impressions of him. I mean, I mean it when I say the ball tracking is really good. Concentration at the catch point is really good. This is a true addition for Indiana, and I think he'll be fighting for that third receiver role, but I'd imagine he takes the majority of the snaps there. Next up is Brock Schott, the redshirt freshman tight end transferring in from Miami. This is an interesting addition because he's slotted to be their starting tight end, but he only had 2 catches last year. There's not a lot to go on here, but there isn't much for anyone else in that tight end room either. The final offensive guy I'll touch on is Turbo Richard. If I'm going to plant my flag and say who I think is going to be the most impactful addition on this team, it might be him, and he might get crowded in that running back room because they have another really good guy we're going to talk about later. But I think this new running back duo might be better than the one they had last year, and that's insane to say considering how good Hemby and Black were. Turbo Richard is coming from Boston College. It's a very fitting name for him. He's about 5'8", 207 pounds, so he's got that bowling ball build, but he still has speed to go with it. I think he's strong enough to run between the tackles. He did that very effectively at Boston College. I mean, there's a reason Indiana got this guy. He's patient, a ton of experience on power and counter, and he would often pick up huge yardage on these type of plays, just kind of waiting for the holes to develop and then using that Turbo name and shooting out of a cannon. he's kind of deceptively fast because he's still big enough to break tackles along the way, but then once he breaks the first tackle, the dude is gone. I liked watching him play a lot. This is a very fun football player. The key note with Turbo Richard is that he is elite as a receiver. Indiana barely threw the ball to running backs last year, but they might want to change that with Richard on the team. I think they'll be missing out on a huge aspect of what makes him such a special player. On the defensive side of the ball, there's a few key additions that I will walk through, starting out with A.J. Harris transferring over from Penn State. A.J. Harris is a complicated player. He's a former 5-star recruit, been at Penn State for 2 years, and those 2 years could not have been any more different. His 2024 tape was great. His 2025 tape was not so much. I'm pretty sure he was even benched during a period of time here. Part of this is the mix of high expectations set for him, and the other half is just Penn State had a fluke year last year with the players just not being able to pick up on Jim Knowles' complex defensive system. Luckily here at Indiana, though, the front will do a lot of the work for him, just like in 2024 when they had Abdul Carter, and that was his best year. I believe he would be better as a safety, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen based on the additions of Wisconsin transfer Preston Jackman, and I won't get to talk about him much today. Now, I do think there's something to say for Cignetti going after him. While Indiana loads up in the portal, Cignetti spares no resources going after players that he really wants, and this is a guy that he clearly wanted. They believe in the potential, and I don't blame them. I think the traits are there, the potential is there, the experience is there. It's another key piece, experience. And granted, some of the A.J. Harris experience isn't good, but the staff really values playing time. If they can get 2024 A.J. Harris back to form to put him opposite of Jamari Sharp, it's going to be a huge move. And then they went out and got 2 Kansas State defensive linemen in Toby Asensanmi and Chidi Abiozor. The former of the two is legit. This is probably their biggest defensive addition. He is a speed freak. He's got that sawed-off 6'3", 250-pound frame. He kind of reminds me of R. Mason Thomas from last year at first glance, and this edge room was depleted. They needed these guys badly, but Asensanmi stands out as being the best pass rusher of the group. He is perfect for the scheme. He'll play the stud role, which is kind of like the jack role from the Ole Miss video. It's just a fancy term for an edge rusher, outside linebacker hybrid who will spend 70% of his time rushing the passer, but then he'll be a chess piece in certain packages, playing off ball, dropping into coverage, whatever wild stuff Brian Haynes can come up with. He is a speed demon off the edge. When he gets the chance to pin his ears back and rush the passer, watch out, because he's going to come in screaming. I think they're going to love getting him going on stunts, because when you can get him a free shot at the quarterback, he's not going to miss. Despite being a speed guy, though, I think he's strong enough to be successful. How that translates to the NFL, I don't know, but we're not here to answer that today. That's a problem for 6 months from now. He does struggle a bit against the run, that's apparent, but it's kind of what you expect from a guy like this. I don't think it's like you can't have him on the field on first down type of bad, but it's not exactly great. But if you can scheme him correctly, you get stuff like this, and his speed is out of this world. I think we'll be talking about him highly for the NFL draft despite the measurables. I would be shocked if he is not maybe the most impactful defender on this team next year. I think he has that much potential if he can put it together. Now, he did miss half of last season with an injury, so you hope he comes back from that, but from the reports, it sounds like he's doing just fine and should be slotted to start, no problem. Chidi Abiozor is quite the opposite of him, and it's good for them that they got both. He's 6'6", 275 pounds, has all the mass and length that you look for at defensive end. This will be the hand-in-the-dirt guy you want anchoring the defense. He played some defensive tackle at Kansas State too. He kind of flipped around between the 3-tech and 5-tech position, but according to our lads and other insiders, he will be playing defensive end for Indiana. He has reps here, so he's position and scheme versatile, which plays well with what Brian Haynes wants to do. I don't think he'll show up in the stat sheet the way the other defensive linemen on the roster will, but his run-clogging position is very important, since I don't know if the existing depth behind him is really going to do this that well, so he's definitely going to have a huge role. And I say existing depth because I think the addition of Joshua Barnum also helps solve this. He's coming over from Notre Dame, 6'4", 250-pound defensive end. He is a very good run defender. He's got a really strong anchor. I feel like all these plays kind of blended together for me because it's the same story every time with him. He sets the edge, he stacks tackles and tight ends. He's just a guy who's going to hold the point for the defense to swarm and tackle at. I think he was kind of an unflashy but necessary addition to this room, and he really does help this run defense. That does cover all the transfer portal players. Now, obviously, there's more on that list, but I do want to keep it just the key guys for now for the sake of time, and ones that you really need to be watching out for next season if you're an Indiana fan or just a college football sicko in general. Now we'll get into their actual roster, and we'll kick it off with the quarterback position as we always do. They went out and got Josh Hoover from TCU in the transfer portal, and I have some thoughts about Josh Hoover. I've done a full review on him on TikTok that you can find. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube Shorts or not, but I'll try to upload that so you guys can watch it. Josh Hoover is listed at 6'2", 200 pounds, and to that I say, no way. Seriously, if he is 6'2", 200 pounds, I will make a public apology video to him. I don't believe that. I think you would have to have him bulk up heavily to hit that 200-pound mark, and 6'2", I'll believe it when I see it. Now, when it comes to his actual talent, because I don't think size actually matters that much at the quarterback position, especially in this system, he can sure throw some slants, and he'll do that at Indiana. The TCU offense was literally slants and skinny post, and that's about it. I mean, no wonder the guy had so many interceptions. They were constantly trying to attack the middle areas of the field. It makes sense why they got him. He has a very quick release. He's not afraid to go over the middle, which I'll get into, and he'll probably be able to run the Indiana RPO system very well. Most quarterbacks don't like to throw over the middle. There's traffic there, it's dangerous, it's uncomfortable. Josh Hoover does not care. He will let it rip, and like I said, most of them are pretty good. I'll give him credit. He will be throwing a lot of balls like this at Indiana. I said it earlier, but that's why they went after him. He's comfortable in this quick decision-making, get the ball out fast and accurately into a window type of throws. I thought he showed flashes of the deep ball too. There were some good throws in here, but a lot of them are a little flat with not enough air under it. To his credit, watch the stat sheet carefully, because I think Josh Hoover might be one of the most unlucky quarterbacks that I've watched. Let's just do the Josh Hoover interception reel from the games that I saw. And here the running back drops a check down, and it's picked off. This isn't the greatest throw, but it's yet again a tipped ball. This is yet another drop by the wide receiver. It's a tight window red zone throw, and it just bounces off the receiver's chest into the hands of the DB. On this play, I think the receiver runs the wrong route. Like, I feel like this is a choice route, and Hoover thought he was going to break outside, but he doesn't, and the corner reads it like a book. This could be on him, though, and he's not without blame here. He had some really bad plays, too. He's just such a weird player, because first half Josh Hoover is like, protect the football, try to extend, make smart decisions, play sound. And then the second half of games would hit, and Josh Hoover would just turn into a pumpkin. Like, if they're down a score or two, he's saying, screw it, somebody's down there somewhere, and forcing throws that don't need to be thrown, like this interception here. This play, he's got a defender lurking, and I just don't think he sees him, and he almost throws it right to him. Granted, nobody's open here, I get it, but don't throw it right at the lurking linebacker. I think Hoover tries his best to be a playmaker, and sometimes it works. I mean, he's a tough kid, but he's just not as good of an athlete as some other quarterbacks out there that can reliably extend plays like this. Here's another example in the same game. I just don't think he has the quickness and physical speed or decision-making to really escape the pocket, but he doesn't have the strength to shed tackles either, like you saw with Fernando Mendoza. He's also not great under pressure. There are some pretty solid passes he get off, but more often than not, he's very frantic. He kind of reminds me of Quinn Ewers, where he would just like self-sack himself, run straight into the defender. I don't want to drag him down too much because the talent at TCU last year was not the greatest, and the offensive line was average at best. And when you have a more immobile quarterback, you're going to need more from them. His receivers would put grease on their hands every game. I will say though, I don't know if he throws a catchable ball. It kind of looks like he's zipping every single pass as hard as he can, and part of that is the scheme. With so many short middle completions, you can't loft those, but they're also harder to come down with. So yes, I am a little skeptical of the Josh Hoover addition. I don't love him as a player. I don't think he takes good care of the football. I don't think he always makes the best decisions, especially under pressure. And I don't think he's as good of an athlete as you saw with Mendoza, where he was able to break out of some sacks and create yards downfield. I don't know if Hoover's able to do that. I get why they got him. He executed a similar system at TCU with the RPO, so he's definitely comfortable with what Indiana wants to do. And Curt Cignetti said it best. He'll meet his two best friends, a defense and a running game. And when you give that to a quarterback, pretty easy to succeed. So I'm not exactly worried about their success, but my grade for the quarterback room is a B. And that's just because I'm not a huge Josh Hoover believer. It just is what it is. I think he's a fine player. I don't think he's going to elevate this team the way that Fernando Mendoza did last year. And it'll be interesting to see what Indiana looks like without a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Now when we move over to the wide receiver room, it looks a little more up. I'll start off by talking about Charlie Becker, who despite only having 34 catches last season, became a household name because of performances that he put up in the Big Ten Championship and the National Championship. He is a deep threat first and foremost. He got an opportunity after Elijah Surratt went down to injury, and he did not look back. The second half of the season, he saw multiple 100-yard games. He had massive moments. I do think that next year he'll be able to look forward to getting more easy access opportunities. He was basically exclusively a deep threat last year. He had to work for all of his targets. He did get to run some out routes as well, not just straight go balls, because he has fantastic abilities on the sideline to fight through physical coverage like you see here. But I do think for his NFL future, he could benefit from a more diverse route tree, so hopefully he gets to experience that this year. His downfield speed is legit. He can pull away from just about anybody, and it's that speed that allows him to pull away here and create this immediate separation before hauling this clutch catch in to ice the game against Ohio State. You might as well give him the 99 catch in traffic, because I think he's as elite as it comes when it comes to finding the football, adjusting to the football, and then putting himself in a position to make any catch. We saw it countless times where I think there's no way he's going to catch that, but then he has some of the best hand-eye coordination that I've seen from, let's be honest, a team's wide receiver 3 last season. You can watch my full review on Charlie Becker on TikTok, but I walked away from it really understanding him as a player more. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's a great vertical threat, but I think it would be beneficial for him to kind of get more experience running some more routes. Maybe he's the guy that you want to throw the quick passes to. Maybe you let him get some yards after catch opportunities with that speed. How else can you use Charlie Becker? And not to discredit what he can do deep threat, but I think there's some more options here for him. I'll give a quick shout out to Tyler Morris. He was injured last year, but he'll probably get some slot snaps to start the season, being the veteran in the room. Originally played at Michigan, didn't produce much over there, but nobody did during the 2024 season, so slight asterisk there. Then we'll move into the running back room, and I've already discussed their newest addition with Turbo Richard, but I'll take a minute to talk about Kobe Martin, who actually produced really well last year with over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. This is a committee of backs, so I would imagine that he splits carries with Turbo Richard, very similar to how Roman Hemby and Kalen Black did last year. Granted, a lot of Kobe Martin's production was garbage time, but to even have 500 yards when you have 2,000-yard rushers on the same team, that shows a lot, and his 6 touchdowns are legit. They come in all shapes and sizes, long runs, goal line carries, you name it. I think Kobe Martin is a dude. He looked really, really good, and I think if he wasn't backing up 2 5th and 6th year players, he would have been starting or gotten more carries. He breaks tackles at such a high level, and it felt like every career touch Indiana gave him, he was just spinning off the first guy, making something happen. He has this deceptive speed and elusiveness to him, like in a straight line, I don't know what he'd run, but he can get to the sidelines and then maintain that speed through his cuts as good as the best of them. He looked really good, guys, and this duo will be as good, if not better than last year's, and that is high praise. Now, I get all of these plays are against backups, but that does not take away from the fact that he looked like the best player on the field when he was with those backups, and I'm very excited to watch him. I'll be keeping an eye on him as a draft prospect. This will be a really good player for Indiana. They might have one of the best running back rooms in the country. My grade for this unit is an A tier, and I know I just said they'll be one of the best rooms in the country, and you think that would validate an S tier, but when I go off of the grades for this, I'm not really doing it on like what I think could happen. It's kind of where I see them at right now. And currently you have Turbo Richard, who's a very good running back. And then you have Kobe Martin, who produced a lot in garbage time. And I want to see him do that in primetime games. Are you going to go out there against Ohio State and have 150 yards and 2 touchdowns? Like, let's see it from it. I will be willing to completely regrade this and eat my words here if they end up being one of the best rooms in the country, like I said, but for now we're rolling with an A tier. Then we get to the tight end room. We discussed Brock Schott earlier, but outside of that, there's not much proven production in this room. I do think this is a clear weak spot for the team. I don't think Indiana relies on the tight end outside of being a blocker, and Nowakowski did have a really good season last year, almost underratedly, but the offense doesn't live and die on the tight end's ability to catch the football. To be fair with the Notre Dame video, I have to give this a question mark simply because we just don't know. Brock Schott is reportedly doing well in spring camp, but every player does well in spring camp according to the insiders. Literally, the 3-deep roster has a combined 2 catches. That's it. Like the 3 starting guys, 2 college catches total. So this is a mystery box. We don't know what we're getting here. We'll see what happens. Now to close out the offense, I will talk about the offensive line that basically returns 4 starters from last season. They're one of the best groups in college football, and I think for them it really is the perfect combo of talent and coaching. You'll hear me talk with other groups about how the coaching staff gets the best out of them. I don't know if that's the case here. I think they're genuinely just that good. They are true artists at blocking the run, and it's not easy. This offense calls on them to do a lot. They've got to be great at gap scheme runs and zone scheme runs. They got to be able to pull and just to maul guys off the ball. They got to get out in space. They have to do it all at the highest level, and they do. The Alabama game is one of the best collective offensive line cut-ups I've ever watched. If you like trench play, treat yourself to watching that. It is such a joy to watch them work, and there's a reason that Pat Coogan was the Rose Bowl MVP, but I don't know if anyone had a better game than left tackle Carter Smith. He is a player that I'm shocked they got back, and I thought for sure he'd be going to the draft, but Indiana fans, rejoice, because this guy is a true anchor in the offensive line, and I've done a full review on him that you can watch, but I'll cover some highlights here. I think Carter Smith might have the best base of any tackle I've watched. He gets his feet so wide, he gets his hips super low, and he turns into like a straight snowplow. He gets perfect drive off the ball. The Alabama game was one of the best games I've seen from him, and I think that he was the best player on the field at times. He has this such tenacious attitude towards run blocking, and that's the main word that I would use to describe him. He excels at getting under pads, turning defenders. He's really mastered this technique to be able to do this. If you need him to wall someone off, he's gonna find a way to do it. You can watch him get out front on this pin and pull. I think he's strong enough of an athlete to execute Indiana's heavily multiple run game. He has to be. He's got the strength and body control to do it all. I think he's solid in pass protection, but he did get exposed a little bit against Miami. Now, to his credit, he did tear his labrum in that game, so it makes sense that it was rough, and you're playing against Ruben Bain. I get it, and I only show this because if you watched him in other games, you'd think that he is like this superhuman, undefeated left tackle, but there are some weaknesses here, and I think it's worth calling out. Overall, he's fantastic. I don't know what the NFL ceiling is because a lot of that comes down to measurables, and I'm pretty sure his arms are short, like very short. So he might be kicking inside to guard, but enjoy him at tackle while you can, Indiana fans. You have one of the best in the game. Moving over to center this year is Bray Lynch. He started at right guard for the team last season, but with the departure of Pat Coogan, they're trusting him to play center. I don't know if Lynch will be the mental player that Coogan was, getting this group set, calling protections, leading that push up the middle, but Lynch should be just as good, if not better, physically. Getting him back was a huge offseason win for Indiana. He could have come home and gotten a bag from a certain burnt orange team down in Austin, Texas, but he chose to return, and credit to him. Like, truthfully, I have so much respect for that in the modern world of college football. Stick with the program that got you there, and he chose to do that. I know I say this about every guy on the team, but he will clear people out against the run, like a dig you out and throw you across the field type of blocker. I actually like the move from center for him because I think he has the attitude needed to just set the tone for the game. You can watch him work here to the second level and just remain committed to the play, using that motor to clear out this linebacker, and what do you know, it clears the hole for another score. And what's crazy is apparently he was injured during all of this. This might just be because I watched him specifically, but it felt like a lot of Indiana's big runs in the playoffs came from his side. They trusted their ability to run right off of his back, and I think that says so much about you as a player. It's always a good sign as a lineman when they choose to attack your side as an offense. Next to him will be Drew Evans, and I really like Drew Evans. I think he might be one of the least talked about returning starters, but I think he's super talented. Of course, he's a good run blocker. Are we really surprised? He started in 12 games last year, but the only games he missed were due to injury. So he has 21 total starts. He's a very experienced player at this point. I actually think Drew Evans might be their best interior pass protector. I thought he looked like the quickest of the bunch, and maybe it's just the sample size, but I really liked what I saw here. Like, you can see he picks up this late twist from Oregon, passes it off perfectly with Carter Smith. You can see an example of that quickness here, getting out on this stretch play and getting up and under the shoulder of this end to fully take him out of the play. I like Evans a lot. He may not have the superior strength or the talent that Carter Smith and Bray Lynch do, but I think he's a really good player that's gonna have a great year. He kind of reminds me of Iowa's Bo Stevens last season, who was one of the more unsung heroes on that team to me. Everyone talked about Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker, but I thought Bo Stevens was the best of the group, and he kind of reminds me of that. The final piece to this unit is Ademola Ajani, and he started 3 games last year at left guard and 1 at right tackle. His first start was against Penn State, and then he played tackle against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. I thought he held his own really well. I think he's a really promising young player. He has an amazing story as well. Moving to the United States from Nigeria, entering high school barely speaking English, to becoming a 3-star recruit, to starting against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, to winning a national championship. You cannot help but be happy for this kid. For the unit tier, I have to roll with an S. I think this might be the best offensive line in college football. That shouldn't be controversial. I think they're a Joe Moore Award semifinalist, finalist, winner. This unit is incredible. It's an easy S tier for me. I don't think there's any complaints about the guys that they have, and look forward to it, Indiana fans. You are going to clear teams out up front yet again. So that wraps up my review of the Indiana offense, and overall I'm going to roll with an A, and I think I was debating between an S here, but I didn't want to hand it out because I really was held back by the quarterback position. I just don't think that Josh Hoover is going to elevate the team in the way that they had with Mendoza last year, and I don't think he elevates the team the way that some of these other S tier offenses that we'll get to, those quarterbacks do. Now, overall, I think the offense is more talented than last year, and Josh Hoover is going to go out and graduate from the Kurt Cignetti School for Wayward Quarterbacks, so maybe I eat my words here. I'm rolling with an A, potential for S. Now, getting into the defense, of course, we'll start with the defensive line, in particular their interior starters. They have Tyreek Tucker and Mario Landino, and they are these uber athletic interior D linemen that are plenty strong, but they play with speed off the ball, and the body control and the overall tenacity is out of this world. I'll talk briefly about Tucker first. He plays with better leverage than most guys in the sport right now. It really stands out in his tape with his ability to just be the lowest man, split double teams, fight through blocks, and he uses his length to wrap up the ball carrier. He's really good at getting after the quarterback. He had 6 sacks last season. This is one of Cignetti's JMU guys that he and Brian Haynes have just coached up to be a menace. He's a little smaller, around 6 foot, 298 pounds, but he does have all the attributes that you look for. He uses his size to his advantage to be that lowest man, to make first contact. He's a joy to watch. I love watching him play. I don't know what his NFL career looks like because he is a little smaller, and I feel like I've said that about every player on the team at this point, but it's par for the course with how Indiana operates. They just get the absolute most out of undersized, under-recruited guys, and if I'm not mistaken, this was the guy on that dumbass graphic last year comparing the size of Miami's offensive line to Indiana's defensive line. Like that ever mattered for them. Now, as to how it doesn't matter, watch them play. We have his teammate Mario Landino, who's a similar story, where he's 6'4", 275 pounds. He's very slim. It would not surprise me if he played more of a 3-4 defensive end role this year, kind of rotating between some spots. I think he's talented enough to try that out. He rushes the passer really well. I think these guys kind of drive that pass rush engine up front with their athleticism. He has insane body control. He shows it off here. He can eat double teams by like bouncing off of them. It's kind of odd to watch, to be honest, but his core is so strong and he just moves so fluidly that he can get past guys who are bigger and stronger than him and excel in uncomfortable spots. He too had interior production with 5 sacks last season, and I think he's an elite college player. He's more interesting as an NFL prospect though, because I think the frame could really hold him back, and I don't think he's pound for pound as strong as Tucker is. But still, this is a player that you love to have if you're Indiana. And of course, we talked about their starting edge rushers earlier with the 3 transfers, and there's not any depth pieces I really want to dwell on, so we'll move over to their linebacking core that was made up of 3 elite guys last year, and we'll touch on that in the scheme section, but now it's 2 main guys with Elijah Hardy and Isaiah Jones. Isaiah Jones was basically the reason they changed their scheme last year. They needed to get him on the field. He's about 6'2", 230 pounds, so good enough size to play in the box, but they use him out in space too, like you can see him playing over the slot here. He's able to work back inside and then stop the run. Here you can see him out over the tight end. He makes a fantastic run stop, stacking the tight end and going around him to get back inside. I don't know how else to say it. I feel like their players are like made of elastic. Like they can just throw offensive players around. They can use their leverage and get around them better than any collective team that I've watched. He will sniff out run plays and get around the line with ease as he demonstrates here. I actually don't think there's going to be a giant drop-off despite the loss of Aiden Fisher. The linebacker room is in really good hands. Next up is my favorite defender on the team with Elijah Hardy. He's smaller, but he plays on fire, and he just embodies that mentality that's been instilled in this defense. I'm thinking that he will be the middle linebacker next season. He played a lot of it last year, and he was really good at it. He has great eyes into the backfield, no fear to fill gaps and trigger downhill, but he's not over-aggressive to where he blows his assignments. He is a really solid tackler. I watched him quite a few games and I don't recall him ever whiffing on one. Maybe I'm having selective memory, but for a guy of his stature, he is really reliable no matter who he's matched up against. He's gonna clean up. He is just 5'11", 225 pounds, but he doesn't play like it. And he flies to the flats, he dips underneath the block, and then makes a perfect form tackle on the screen. This is what elite linebacker play looks like. You're watching an incredible player despite the size. I think he sees the field well. He does a good job of pouncing on routes in the hole window. When he's not joining in on their wild sim pressure packages, he is kind of this lurking linebacker against the pass, and he does a really good job there. I don't want to label him as just this cleanup defender though. He's a difference maker in coverage. Watch this play here against Indiana to leap in the air and almost haul in this one-handed interception. His instincts and athleticism are really starting to pop, and he was only a true sophomore. I think the sky for Hardy is truly the limit. It does suck that his frame is so small, and I really hope he gets a shot at the NFL. I don't know where it'll be, what he'll have to do, but Hardy is too talented to not get that chance, and he's a guy I'm really pulling for in 2026. The secondary is led by Jamari Sharp, who started opposite of D'Angelo Pons last year. He's about 6'1", 190 pounds, so good size, and he's got track speed. He ran a 10.6 100-meter dash as a junior in high school, and it's kind of wild when you think about how fast Pons was. They had this fast duo of corners. He played a lot of off-zone coverage. That's the system, so I do find these type of players objectively harder to judge. I think it's much easier to watch a press man corner and say, okay, I can see him mirror his receiver's release. I can see how fluidly he flips his hips. I can see how we deal with hand fighting from bigger guys. But the zone corners, it's a lot of judging their eyes and how they execute their role, which is tough because a lot of the times you don't exactly know what a guy is coached to do. Indiana's secondary is a tad simpler than some of the SEC teams we've covered and will continue to cover, but there are still rules that as a watcher, I just don't know. Regardless, he's a great player. He sealed the game against Miami with his interception, which funny enough was his only interception of the season, but he did have forced fumbles, which brings me to my main point about him, and he is a physical corner. Despite almost never playing press man coverage, you can see the physicality in his game downfield, but you also see it at the line of scrimmage where he's willing to come in and do the dirty work against screens. I have no surprise that he forced multiple fumbles. And of course, he is an Indiana football player, so we'll call out his effort. Watch this play. He admittedly whiffs on the first chance at the tackle, but watch and look who hawks down Aiden Childs. It's the same guy who had the first chance. He never gives up. I trust his side of the field, and we'll see what happens with AJ Harris. If AJ Harris can figure it out, you're going to have a lockdown duo yet again. At nickel, I'm assuming the starter will be Byron Baldwin. He was a freshman last year. He appeared in 7 games, including 3 of the playoff games. He's 6'2", 195 pounds, so definitely a big nickel slot corner that will be very useful in run support now that I'd imagine they're going back to a base nickel defense. Not a huge sample size on Baldwin. He was a true freshman last year, but overall I do like what I saw. He was the highest ranked recruit of their 2025 class, and I think that shows on the field. We'll end the review of the secondary with Amari Farrell. I think he's fine. Honestly, watching tape, not much pop to me. I think he's really solid college safety. He's not going to give up too many big plays. He's going to usually fill the run well. He just played with so much talent around him that it's hard for me to pick him out. I absolutely loved Lewis Moore last year, so when I went to watch Farrell, my eyes just always were gravitating towards Moore. And I don't want to be unfair to Farrell. He just didn't have to do a whole lot. They didn't ask a ton of him. Most of the highlight plays came from Moore. Now, we did have 4 interceptions, so there's proof of ball production here. He executes his job very well. He plays with good anticipation. He was a second-team All-Big Ten player, so he has the accolades. I just think the other defenders showed more flashes that wowed me, and I didn't see that from him. But fans, tell me what I'm missing here, because there are the accolades to back him up, and also the stats back him up too, and I could just be judging this player entirely wrong. My grade for all of these defensive parts is an A. I have the linebacker room at an A, the secondary at an A, and the defensive line at an A. I think they're all very good, top-tier units in college football based on the transfers they brought in, based on the talent that they had, and that brings me to my overall grade for the defense, which is an S. I think as a sum of their parts, this is one of the best defenses in college football, and I factored in scheme here before, so I'm going to do it again. When you take in Brian Haynes' scheme, which we're about to get to, this is an S-tier unit. This is probably has the potential to be the best defense in college football. Now that we've covered the roster, let's talk about Indiana's scheme. And I debated if I wanted to start with the offense or the defense, but I ended up going with the offense because I think it's a little simpler to cover, and I really do want to give a shout out to Mike Shanahan, since I feel like all the credit goes towards Kurt Cignetti and Brian Haynes for what they're able to do, and it's all deserved for sure, but Shanahan had this offense rolling. They are a run-heavy team. An RPO-heavy team, yes, but they're a run-heavy team first. They ran the ball for over 100 yards in 13 out of 16 games last year, 2 backs over 1,000 yards, another over 500. They will run every run scheme in the book too, so we'll start there. They are basically entirely a gun or pistol team. They do not go under center. I think they use the pistol more so than most of the teams we've watched so far, and they really like this formation here with twins to the field and one receiver, Charlie Becker, to the boundary. They are not afraid to bring 6 linemen on the field. It's funny because they play exclusively 11 personnel, so when they want to get heavy, they say, screw the tight end, let's just bring a swing tackle out here, and this is the result when you do that. They don't just do it in the red zone either. They would do this very commonly on first down, starting out drives to kind of set the tone. Now, granted, the score of the game at this point was 35-7, so this is a closing method too, but it's still something you need to know about the Hoosiers. They get heavy. I'll start off explaining their run game with the series early in the game against Oregon in the Peach Bowl. While they are primarily a gap scheme running game, they use the zone run game too, and they let these running backs just kind of pick and choose from whatever truck-sized lanes the offensive line clears up. The next play, they're going to run what looks like a wham concept to me, where we get this tight end lead blocking through the backside A-gap. And then after we beat you up 2 plays in a row with this, we're going to run pin and pull, where we have Carter Smith and Pat Coogan lead the way and stretch us to the sideline, where we turn it upfield and pick up a big gain. This is why I say it's a perfect combo of scheme and execution. They go directly hand in hand. And then to cap off the drive, what do? Oh, we just have our first round draft pick slot receiver run a perfect route, and we have our first overall pick at quarterback execute the throw to the back of the end zone. Teach tape. They just say we're going to run right at you and you're not going to stop us, and spoiler alert, it works. But part of the reason they can do this is because of those wrinkles they throw at you to keep opposing defenders on their toes. They'll run stretch as well. I mean, so far in a few clips, I've shown you wham, duo, inside zone, outside zone, pin and pull. Like, when you play Indiana, you have to be prepared to fit all of these runs, and it's just a nightmare. The fact that they're able to have such a diverse running game where they can run any scheme at such a high level, it's incredible, and that's why they're so good at running the football, is you have to come prepared to fit all of these different types of runs. It's kind of like playing against a really good pitcher in baseball that can throw a changeup at you when you least expect it. That's what their running game is. They'll hit you with duo, and then all of a sudden we're running pin and pull and stretching it to the sideline, and it's like, where did that come from? Now, to introduce their passing game, we have to start with the RPO. Many of the plays you saw in the run section were probably RPOs, but for those who don't know, it is a run-pass option. Run is first. The quarterback has the chance to leave the ball in the belly of the running back, or he can pull it and throw it depending on what the read defender does. And that can be anybody. Typically, it's a corner or a linebacker though. You'll see a prime example of just an RPO hitch right here. The key signal that it's an RPO and not a straight passing play is the movement of the offensive lineman. You'll see in a second, if they move forward, they are probably run blocking, and it's probably an option. On this example here, we'll see the offensive lineman go to run block, but Mendoza is reading this corner here. If he drops back and he gives Surratt cushion, we're just going to take the easy 5 yards all day, every day. RPOs like this are very simple. If room, throw it. If not, don't. This was the critique people had of Fernando Mendoza as a prospect, though, is that he would just do this all game long. Here's another example where what I'm thinking is that he can throw the quick out to Omar Cooper, but he's covered, so we hand the ball off instead. A lot of Indiana's RPOs are to the outside, towards the numbers, towards the sideline. A lot of TCU's RPOs were more traditional RPO slant, RPO post, having the quarterback read the movement of linebackers and safeties and doing the math. If there's more players in the box, then we're going to go ahead and throw the slant. If there's more players outside of the box, we're going to hand it off because we have better numbers. Indiana does do that, but they really want to take advantage of coverage and matchups towards the boundary. They will dial up quarterback option at times too. Everyone takes the back here and Mendoza just runs free after making a really good play. They bring this in when they need to. It's a very strategic use of the quarterback run. The one myth I want to dispel is that they are just this spam the RPO and profit type of team. Yes, they do it. Yes, they're successful, but they call plenty of true dropbacks like you see here. And these are the type of plays I actually think Josh Hoover has a high chance of success with. They will take their chance to stretch the field with one-on-one shots, especially to Charlie B from Nashville, Tennessee. The chemistry that he and Mendoza built last year was special, and I'm curious to see if we could see that repeat. They love to work the sidelines, and for the skill set of their receivers and quarterback last year, this made a lot of sense. I'd imagine they want to do the same thing with Becker returning and Marsh's skill set, but it's going to take a lot of timing and arm strength for Josh Hoover to execute these type of plays. They run a lot of this drive style of concept where they have crossing routes at different depths, like you can see here, the drag from the tight end and the dig from the slot, and then basically two choice routes on either side. Typically, these will be 10 to 15 yard out routes or just straight up go balls that, of course, Mendoza is going to throw here. They use a lot of crossing routes with little options or spots built in. Here we can see the cross between Surratt and Nowakowski, but Nowakowski feels this hole in the zone open up and he's going to settle down and let Fernando Mendoza find him for a quick and easy gain. One of Indiana's tendencies in the red zone is to run these quick hitting slants, out routes, create traffic with natural pick scenarios, and then Mendoza's first read to get wide open. This is common. It's not anything unique to Indiana. Using traffic to get players open is very normal, but they throw their own little wrinkles in it here, and they basically have Surratt stop in the middle of his route to create this very slim window. This DB is expecting contact from Surratt. It's a pick, and he just doesn't give it to him. And Mendoza knows this is drawn up, and the ball is right there as he stops. Now, they will also dial up some trick plays when necessary. You'll see one here that they actually stole from Ohio State. They're going to get D'Angelo Pons on the field in the slot, and they're going to have him run this motion here, move this linebacker inside, and then this is the advantage of playing offense. Pons knows what he's doing. He motions back outside, catches the swing pass, but because this backer has to react, he's a step behind. And if you're a step behind on D'Angelo Pons, he's going to beat you to the sideline. So when you ask me, what do they run on offense? I'll tell you everything. They can run the ball effectively with any scheme. They have a very complex and proven RPO system that they run, but they could also throw it downfield. They love to run posts. They love to run go balls. They'll throw drag routes over the middle and let them run to grass by getting these pick situations like we talked about earlier. They can do it all, and they live in third and short. That is the key to this offense, is that they run the ball so well and they can get these free, easy gains on first down for 5 to 6 yards. They're never in a 3rd and 15. They're not in a 3rd and 20 where they have to drop back and they have to chuck it deep. The critique on Indiana quarterbacks is that they do typically throw to the first read because they scheme up the first read to be open. They don't always have to call these long developing plays. Steve Sarkisian. Wouldn't that be nice? Now let's move on to the Indiana defense, because as fun as the offense was, Bryant Haynes is an absolute football psycho, and I cannot wait to talk about some of the things that he does with his side of the ball. They are a multiple defense. Their base personnel was technically a 4-2-5, but they'll play a 4-3, 3-4. All their different personnel packages and alignments are what makes them so special. They use this hybrid type of player called the stud, who I called out earlier. This is why I have a hard time categorizing them. They started off the year last season as a base nickel defense, but at the end of the year, they ran a lot of 4-3 personnel to get their linebackers on the field. I don't know if that'll be the case this year because they really only have 2 standout linebackers now, unless some guy surprises me. So I think they'll go back to the base nickel scheme instead and lean on that talented secondary. The first thing I'll go over, and the most important part of this defense, is their simulated pressure packages. This is what they want to use to create chaos, to wreak havoc, and ultimately, it is why they are so successful. We've talked about their talent, but the talent and the scheme go hand in hand to create this elite defense, and this is where it all starts. This is the first example I'll use here of a simulated pressure. We have a nose tackle head up on the center, a defensive tackle at 2-eye, and we have 2 5-tech edge rushers. Aiden Fisher is mugged at the line, Devin Boykin drops down to mug at the last second, and basically what they're going to do is drop the strong side defensive end, they're going to rush Boykin from the field side, and they're only bringing 5. Oregon doesn't slide their protection, and then this tackle has to choose, and the back doesn't see it until it's too late. For those who don't know what a simulated pressure is, it's basically using a ton of numbers up front to trick the offense into guessing where the defense is going to rush from, and then trying to rush from where you think the offense is not going to be protecting. It's all kind of a chess game. It's all kind of a mental match when you do these simulated pressure packages. I talk more about it in the Texas A&M video, so feel free to check that out as well, or just continue watching here because we're going to get into so many more. Here we see against Alabama, they have 7 guys walked up, but they end up dropping all of the linebackers and playing cover 2. You're going to see Mikel Kamara loop here, and he's going to jump inside to force a pressure up the middle. It looks like Ty Simpson gets away, but ultimately this ends Alabama's season because they force him to run, he takes a shot, and he's cooked. They love to bring pressure from the secondary too. You'll see 7 guys walked up again, and then Fisher, Kamara, Jones, and Landino all drop back into coverage. Hardy is going to rush, which yes, you probably do account for, but so is D'Angelo Pons, and they've overloaded this one side of the play by doing this. This is another example of a secondary pressure from the nickel. Here we get 3 down linemen. We have the stud player here, and then Hardy and Fisher are mugged. They only rush 3, but they bring in a late pressure from the nickel and they force Ty Simpson to roll out and then almost throw an interception. Now they can be really bold too and try to take some risky maneuvers. Like here you'll see them rush 6, but then they back off once the rush is started and they get these linemen committed. The 2 edge rushers are actually going to back off into coverage, and then it's Aiden Fisher who forces this into traffic. This is one of the best ones in my opinion. We get a 4-man front with Aiden Fisher mugged, Elijah Hardy is lined up at Mike, Oregon is not going to slide protection, which for this look is fine, but what happens is so much fun to watch though, because this linebacker, end, and D tackle are all going to drop, and we're not going to rush anyone on the field side. We're going to get Elijah Hardy replacing Fisher, and on the back end we get D'Angelo Pons firing. We have literally tricked this line into using 5 guys to block 2 people, and we get these 2 rushing. It's genius. What all this crazy stuff does is it forces the offense to essentially accept defeat. You can either gamble that you set your protection correctly, or you can just say, hey, we're not going to have the time. Let's hope our guys can beat theirs to the sideline and pick up yards like this. Hopefully that gives you a glimpse into what game planning for this defense would look like. It would absolutely suck. And I know that was just like 5 minutes of analysis, but even those few plays, that's all game long. Like when you watch the tape, they're not just doing this, oh, a random 3rd down here and there. It is like every series, you have to account for this. So by the end of the game, you're tired. You're done guessing where these guys are gonna come from. You're tired of getting hit by the nickel on the field side, and you're tired of having the defensive tackle run around to the edge spot, but no one's rushing from this side. It's just a crazy thing that Brian Haynes thinks of in his head. The back end is a lot more simple, luckily for me to talk about. They're a shell coverage football team. They like to keep everything in front of them. They'll run a lot of cover 3, Tampa 2, cover 2. Here you see a really basic cover 2 look against Alabama. It's nothing special. Here it looks like they rotate into some form of cover 3 post snap, but this is what you're missing with D'Angelo Pons. He's just such a good football player. He sees the quarterback release this ball, and he's quick enough both mentally and physically to jump on this, and honestly should have forced a PBU. Here you'll see a Tampa 2 look with Aiden Fisher dropping back and covering the seam as we talked about earlier. Their goal as a defense is to make you walk it down the field. You're not going to score because you got a big play. You're going to score because you executed 10 perfect plays in a row. And the pressure they bring makes it exceedingly difficult to do this. And if you can survive the pressure, you got to get past the 11 uber talented, perfectly coached guys all executing their jobs at a high level. Now, just like heavy man coverage teams have their dangers, so do heavy zone coverage teams because there naturally are going to be holes all over the field. Here we get Tampa 2, which is one of their staples, and for those who don't know what Tampa 2 is, I'll teach it like this. It looks like cover 3 because if you pause the play in the middle of the rep, you basically get 3 defenders deep. But what it does is it essentially takes this Tampa player and makes them take a deeper than usual drop. Usually this is the middle linebacker, but they're not dropping all the way back into this like middle field safety. What this player will typically do is read the vertical threat up the seam. If there's a threat, then they're gonna take them, as we see here. And if not, we'll probably stay put and survey ready to crash, which I'll show you later. But when the pass rush doesn't get home against zone coverage, you have holes in it. And this is where now Hoosier Nick Marsh can catch this pass and take it to the house. They were incredible against the run this year. I talked about that earlier. They have these vicious defensive tackles and linebackers that just clean up scraps. They play fast, violent, and physical, and they stop the run by just being fundamentally better than you. They have this team built to stop the run. They can load up the box with these versatile backers. They use the stud player to set the edge, and they can just eat naturally. I don't think they overload you with twists. I don't think they run a ton of stunts. They don't have wild blitzes. They just play good football. While we're talking about the defense, I do want to take this time to talk a little bit about talent composition. I think they were in the 70s for overall talent composition last year, and they went undefeated and won the national championship. Yes, these players are much better than the fake number of talent composition really says. Obviously, they're better than that, but we have to give huge credit to this coaching staff. What they're doing with, on paper, the talent that they have and the roster that they have, and honestly, the depth. Like the superstars on the team, yeah, they're all great, but the depth is probably less talented than most of the teams in the Big Ten they're playing, and they have these guys out here performing perfectly. I don't know what goes on inside that building. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they teach it, but man, I would pay good money to be able to sit in for one day on those meetings and just see what is so different in that program. What is Brian Haynes saying? What is Mike Shanahan doing on the field that is making these players perform like this? Because it's unlike things that we have seen in the sport. That sounds dramatic, but it's not. I mean, this is a generational, once in a lifetime type of a team, and it's crazy that this roster only got better. Now, to end off the video, we'll of course do our schedule prediction for Indiana, and I actually think their schedule is a little more respectable this year. Last year they had decent teams. They had Oregon, they had Penn State, who should have been good. That's not their fault. and then they proved their worth in the playoff. I don't think there's any question that Indiana was the best team in the country based on their schedule. This year, I think there's more of a balance. They have some feeder teams, obviously, but they also have some tough competition on here, which we'll get to. They open up against North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky. These are 3 wins. I don't need to elaborate. They open up Big Ten play with a night game at home against Northwestern, and while it is an even year Northwestern is a thing, I think this is another win for the Hoosiers. And then they open up on the road versus Rutgers, and I just don't think they lose this game or really have a chance to. This is another win for me. However, after this, they go on the road to play Nebraska, and I think this game is interesting. I may not get the chance to talk about him ever, but I really like what Nebraska has in Anthony Calandria. I think they have a chance to be a really frisky team this year. It might be another 8-4 type year for Nebraska, but I think that on the road, they could give Indiana some sort of struggle. Do I think Indiana is going to lose this game? No. But do I think it could be kind of like the Penn State game last year, where it's like, oh, we're in trouble here? Yeah, if there's one place that's going to happen, it could be Nebraska. And then they get Ohio State at home, and this is the big crown jewel game for their season. Probably the biggest home game the Hoosiers have ever hosted, dare I say. I don't think it's too crazy to say that. I really don't know what to think here because I don't want to be the guy that keeps downing Indiana, because I don't. But this is not last year's team. Last year's team really was the team of destiny. They had everything. This year, I don't know if that's true. I think they lose this game. I think it will be good, but I do think Ohio State gets the best of them, and we will for sure break this one down on the channel, don't worry, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Then they go on the road to Michigan, and getting this after Ohio State is honestly better than before. If it was before, I think they might look past Michigan a bit, but I don't think that will be the case. I'm not really a Josh Hoover believer. I'm not really a Bryce Underwood believer, so this might be a sickos game for me to watch. We might combine for like 4 interceptions in this game. A Kyle Whittingham coach team is going to be fast and physical, and they're going to be tough to beat, especially in Ann Arbor, but I think Indiana does pull this off, especially if they lose the week before. I can't really see them losing to Michigan. After that physical stretch, they calm it down at home versus Minnesota. Here's another win. And then they get USC at home, and USC is kind of a mystery box. I think this year is now or never for Lincoln Riley, but they don't have the schedule for that, dude. Their schedule is brutal, and I think they'll need a win here to keep their playoff hopes alive. But sadly for the Trojans, I don't think they get it. I think Indiana wins. USC could win this game. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Indiana lost to USC, but I just don't see it happening. I think it's a fairly safe win for Indiana. Then they end their road schedule with Washington, and the Huskies are another frisky team that, dare I say, the Penn State game again, but this could be like the Penn State game. Washington on the road is not easy. Their fan base is loud. I don't know what it is about Husky Stadium, but that place gets rocking, and I think this could get interesting for Indiana. I think Indiana wins, and I'm sorry I've said that about like every game on their schedule, but that just shows that they actually have some really entertaining, tough competition, and there's gonna be some fun games to watch if you're a Hoosier fan. Like, I think you're gonna win them, but I think you're gonna enjoy them. This isn't just gonna be like beating them 45-7 and you're watching other games by the third quarter. Finally, they play Purdue, and yeah, sorry Purdue fans, Indiana wins again. Maybe one day you can turn it around, but not likely. So that puts Indiana at 11-1, and they're most likely playing Oregon or Ohio State again in the Big Ten Championship. I don't do championship game predictions on here because I don't know how the tiebreakers work, and that's a boggle of things I don't want to get into. But it would not shock me if they are playing for and win another Big Ten title. I think their roster on paper only got better with the massive exception of the quarterback position, and that's the hard part for me with this team. Does it matter? I don't know. Because at the end of the day, Fernando Mendoza was a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, #1 overall draft pick quarterback. It doesn't matter how friendly your scheme is. If your quarterback is that talented, you're going to be a good football team. For Josh Hoover, the scheme can mask a lot of his faults, sure, but when you're playing against Ohio State, or hell, you're playing against Michigan in Ann Arbor, and that place is loud and it's cold and they are physically dominating you, are you going to step up as the quarterback? Are you going to turn the tide of what we saw at TCU, where there were games where, to be honest with you, you lost the game for your team? Is that going to happen in Indiana? And I get it. They have a running game. I get it. They're better on paper. But when you're not playing with the lead, are you going to go out there and throw 2 or 3 picks like you did at TCU? We'll have to see. I do think Indiana could be ranked higher. If you're mad at them being number 6, I get it, and it's kind of rare to have a national champion be 6 the next season. Usually they'd be in the top 3, but there are just some elite teams in college football this year. I think it's going to be a very fun season, and make sure you stay tuned for the next few videos coming soon. With all that said, please do subscribe and leave a like on this video. Thank you so much for all the support I've gotten so far. It's actually been incredible. Go follow me over on TikTok as well. We're almost at 10,000 followers as of recording this video, and that's a huge milestone to hit. And we might get 1,000 subscribers on this channel by the beginning of the season too. I think that's the goal I'm going to set for myself. So send this video to a friend, make that happen. Be sure to stay tuned for more.